Hello and welcome to episode 56 of PauseCast. It is September the 21st. It's a Thursday and it's 2017. Holy shit.
Interesting order.
Oh, this is the worst I've ever done.
No, you've got the date wrong before.
Oh, that's true, actually. My name is Jessica Alouette and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Mark Hanna, I use he, him. Welcome.
God, not a good start, I would say.
It's alright. We can leap into a whole big discussion around date formats, if you like. Maybe not.
You know what? I got something there. I think there is something there, and the something there is, let's talk about our ideal dates. You have to go on a date right now.
Oh shit!
With a video game character.
The video game character.
Here's the spin on it. If you have to go on a date with a video game character, first, which video game character is it?
Yeah, obviously.
Second, what's your date? Keep it quick.
I am gonna have to think about that for a while.
Okay. I'll go first.
Oh yeah.
I will take Lara Croft to a nice dinner and maybe a water park or something. I don't know.
Oh, there's too many good video game characters.
I know. I had to Lara Croft even was a pull for me. Or maybe tea with Emily Caldwin or something.
That's Dishonored, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. I don't even know. Although I am looking forward to that orc dating simulator that's coming out next month.
Is there an orc dating simulator
It's
coming
called
out?
Shadow of War.
Oh, right. You're right. I'm sorry. I forgot about the orc dating simulator called Shadow of War that's coming out.
I thought it was coming out end of month. It's coming out on the 11th, so I'm even more excited now.
Dang.
So it's I think that's about 3 weeks away.
Yeah, that would be 3 weeks away now, huh?
Yeah,
So,
3 weeks yesterday.
Welcome to PauseCast. This is a show about video games and dating orcs.
I am looking forward to meeting Bruce.
Bruce seems charming, at the very least. I don't know how he would be kind of on the broad side of things, but he seems pretty okay. Seems pretty charming.
We'll see.
We'll see.
He makes me laugh.
That's a start, though. Hey.
Yeah.
So, this is a show about video games, and I want to kick this off by asking you, Mark, what have you played this week?
Oh, I have played less than I expected to. I've ended up doing some other stuff in a lot of evenings. I've played a bit more XCOM 2, although not as much as I expected to. And on one night, actually, I revisited Stellaris, but not for long, and I also revisited a game I haven't played in ages, which is Space Pirates and Zombies.
Oh, wow, Spaz.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Which...
It's been a while since I've even heard, Space Pirates and Zombies mentioned in any context.
Yeah, I hadn't played it in ages, but I kind of wanted to play a space... So what's happened is a new pen and paper RPG called Starfinder has had its core rulebook released by the makers of Pathfinder, and me and my flatmate bought the PDF together, and we've been looking through the rules, looking forward to hopefully doing a session 0 on this Saturday, and we were both wanting to do something spacey in the background while we talked about it, so we tried playing some Stellaris. He ended up wanting to do some prep since he's going to be running the session 0, so I ended up playing some Space Pirates and Zombies while we talked about the rule set. And it's a fun background game. I haven't played it in so long that I don't have any saves to load, so I could only access the small beginning ships. But so many space games have ship customization stuff, and the only one I have enjoyed it in is Spaz. Because every other one, it feels like overkill and it's not necessary, whereas in this one, it's no, it actually makes a really big difference if you've got a tractor beam there or a sensor array. And I just find it fun. Although it's hard, it's either it's harder than I remember, or I'm just not as good as I used to be. Because I died a lot. I died a whole lot.
Yeah, It's one of those. Spaz is one of those games that's been sitting in my library, just like for a grip, and I haven't touched it. But it's just sat there. So what can you tell me about this game that might make me want to pick it up?
So the way I see it is it's kind of like a spaceship collecting game.
Okay.
It's got a story. It's not interesting, in my opinion. I skip through the dialogue, which I never do. But the idea is, like a lot of space games, it generates a galaxy. You go between star systems. And the idea is that you are flying a little ship around in 2D, and you've got two other ships that follow you, and you decide what type of ship they are. So there's a whole bunch of different ships of different size categories. And on each hard point, you decide, what sort of weapon or utility thing does it have? Or how good is the engine, if you've got access to a higher tier engine. And then you shoot other spaceships. And every time you encounter a new other type of spaceship, once you shoot enough of them and blow them up, you can then make that spaceship. So I play it like a spaceship collecting game.
Okay. That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, and it's got a surprising number of ships. I don't think I actually got all of them when I played through it last. I didn't finish it. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it when I've played it. It's a fun, very casual game. It doesn't have any multiplayer or anything. I know that there is or was going to be a sequel, but when I saw that it was 3D, I kind of lost interest because I think the simplicity of doing this all 2D really helped with the game.
Yeah, I remembered hearing about a sequel not long ago. It's actually on sale right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it looks like it's kind of a weird mix of Stellaris and the original game, which is actually kind of sweet.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't looked at this for a long time, since it was probably early development, so what I have in my head might be way off what it actually is.
Yeah, it is. It's an early access right now.
Okay.
And it's 50% off. They're getting so close to the end though, because let's see. So that's actually exactly 2 weeks ago. They released what they called the Almost There update, and the previous one was to add voice acting.
Oh, interesting. They have radio chatter in the first game, which it's all meant to be a joke. Every bit of radio chatter, pretty much, but I found it gets repetitive pretty fast.
Right.
Not to the point of being annoying, just that it doesn't take very long to cycle through everything. I'm looking at the screenshots of it on Steam, and it looks pretty cool. I imagine they've still got a decent focus on spaceship building. I think, if I remember right from when I looked at ages ago.
I had a quick look at reviews. It seems people are very happy that there is a lot more customization in this game. Sorry, cool. Continue.
No, that sounds cool. What I remember, and this could be wrong because I haven't looked at it in ages, it was in the first game you picked a hull, and in this game I think you sort of put different pieces together to build the hull, if I remember right. I could be wrong. It looks cool, but I really did like the 2D aspect of the original one, and this one, at least the graphics are 3D. Maybe it's still on a 2D plane, I'm not sure. I don't think so, though. But yeah, playing Spaz the other night was fun. It was a nice little space thing to do in the background. It might become my new podcast game for a bit or something.
Yeah. Now, I haven't quite shifted this into podcast game mode yet, but Destiny 2... I've been playing a lot of my particular space game this week. So I think last week I mentioned I was keen to try the raid because it had just launched last week.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm pleased to report that on the weekend, the stars did align, and I did get a chance to try out part of the raid for the first time. And we made it through the first encounter of 6. And then the majority of our party was kind of below. We were on the low side of the recommended light level.
Right. So it was quite a hard time to beat everything.
Yeah, it was actually it was one of those, we made it through the first section in 30 minutes. Nice, we're going to kick ass at this raid. And then spend 3 hours in the next section of the raid, trying to figure out the mechanics while also not dying.
Yeah. I mean, that aspect of trying to figure it out, it reminds me of the idea of an escape room, actually. I realized that when Destiny puts out a raid and no one knows how to do it initially, that's really neat. So I'm imagining that people have done it and will be talking about it, but you've all avoided that so you can figure it out when you actually do it.
What we did for that encounter, the raid that we took like very, very long to figure out, we had several attempts, and we also had Ash had been through that part of the raid already. So when we got to a point where we were having like just complete difficulty figuring out whether we had got the mechanics right, and we just felt like we weren't making any progress, we then asked Ash about what the mechanics were like. So we had the like escape rope, so we could ask for help if we needed it.
Right, escape rope. Is that like the Pokemon item?
No, we had when I say that, I'm referring to like we had an escape from the situation of we just don't know if we're getting these mechanics right.
Oh, okay.
And we had the ability to avoid that frustration, but ultimately we didn't end up making progress through that second encounter. Interesting thing I learned about the raid was that the raid resets weekly, and it changes the order of the encounters.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Because it all operates on kind of like a hub world. And so they can actually just shift the order of the rooms. And so that's what they're going to be doing during the weekly resets, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how that'll affect playing through it a second time.
I think it means one of the more challenging sections from later in the raid the first week is now right at the top of the second week.
So if you can get past that, it's all downhill from there?
Potentially, yes. It's, from what I understand, that section is a little bit more stealth-oriented, which should be interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I remember, didn't one of the Destiny 1 raids introduce a stealth thing, and it was like the first time the game had any stealth component?
I think that might be accurate, because the Destiny raids have always been it's more mechanic-heavy content. And like even just the first two encounters that we ran into were very, very mechanic heavy, and it was very fun to figure out how it all worked, and eventually divvy up our fire team so that we could actually get it going and finish that section of the raid. It was a really great experience, and I'm glad that I got to experience that for the first time. It was my first time doing a raid in anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've got a warlock character. I had been running a Titan prior. And I finished the story on my warlock last night.
Oh, cool. So they're max level now, getting light and stuff as well.
Yeah,
then?
I am now max level and stuff, so now I'm focused on like just increasing my power level. Warlock is really fun to play. The jumps suck, but...
Is Titan that got really good jumps or something?
Titans and Hunters have like very good jumping abilities, but Warlock jumps are kind of weird. Warlock jumps, they will propel you in the direction that you are moving when you fire the second jump. So if you're trying to go up, you basically have to stop and then do the double jump while you're moving upwards. If you keep running, you're going to jump in an arc.
Yeah.
So it makes some of the jumping stuff a little bit more challenging, but I've really enjoyed how it's felt.
So is it kind of like a speed boost in the exact direction that you're going in?
Yeah, kind of like a speed boost in the direction you're going.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because, most double jumps in games are just like go up again.
Yeah, exactly. A couple other things I've been playing this week. I've continued to play Hitman. I tried to stream that on Tuesday, but ultimately just wasn't feeling it. Yeah, I got frustrated with a couple of the main missions on that. Rainbow Six Siege, which I mentioned, I think, last week that I had gotten a copy of.
Yeah, you did.
That game is really fun.
Nice.
It's weird to come to from PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds because I'm used to you can kind of only come into houses from one direction, where a lot of things can be destroyed in Rainbow Six.
So you can blow a hole in the wall kind of thing?
Yeah, you can blow a hole through a wall and shoot through said wall. You can, like, there's a lot of destroyable stuff. There's gaps in the ceilings that can be breached. There's gaps that can't be breached because they have like structural reinforcement, but they can you can still destroy the wall around them or the floor around them to shoot through. So it creates a lot of really, really interesting gameplay stuff. Also, the first weapon skin that I unlocked after my first ever victory in that game was just a skin that made one of my pistols just look like a water gun, which is my favorite thing. So I've of course equipped that on everyone that I can. It's got like Overwatch style heroes for its characters, so they all have like special abilities and stuff like that. No ultimate abilities per se, but they have like special abilities. Like there's one that has a remote breaching charge.
Right.
So you can fire it into a wall, and after a slight delay, it'll bust the wall open. Where normally you would have to go and apply a physical breaching charge to it, and then stand back and then detonate it. This will just do it automatically and can do it remotely, which is kind of a cool ability.
Is that the character that you're playing the most or something?
I've played that character a little bit, yeah. I haven't particularly played a lot of it, mostly because of Destiny and mostly because of Dishonored.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I actually got back into Dishonored 2.
Oh, didn't they just release their DLC as well?
They did release Death of the Outsider, and I have a friend who's finished that and has told me that it is very good.
Cool.
But I don't have the money for that right now.
Yep, fair enough.
So I have decided instead to play Dishonored 2, which I do have. It's tremendously good, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
Nice.
There's a really cool twist in Chapter 3 that I really enjoyed. There is a lot of lore, and I'm really taking my time with Dishonored 2 and kind of soaking it in that lore right now because it's a much higher density than anything else I'm playing. And so I can, kind of take all of that in and be like totally astonished by this world.
I feel like the Dishonored games, I feel like I'd watch them as a TV show and enjoy that more than I enjoy playing them. Not to say I don't enjoy playing them, but every time I've tried to play Dishonored 1, I have just like gone and gotten lost exploring every little corner and not progressed anything. And I think that's, if it was something like a TV show, that would at least force me to progress things. Because the world is interesting, the story is interesting. I'm just bad at getting through it.
Because it's just so, like, jaw-droppingly beautiful?
Well, also because, like, I want to never get seen, and I also want to see everything, and that makes everything very slow.
I managed to get through, the first section of Dishonored 2 with nobody seeing me, know nothing, and that was very fun. I did part of that by, like, possessing a rat. That ability is back. I did a lot of that through kind of just finding alternate routes.
So, which character have you picked, and I assume you've picked to use the powers?
Yeah, I have picked to use the powers, and I chose Corvo.
Okay, so you're continuing on his story from Dishonored 1.
Yeah, I started an Emily playthrough originally when I had started Dishonored 2, and I intended that to be my high chaos run, and I still kind of intend that.
That's when you kill everyone?
Yeah. Or kill anybody who gets in my way. But I'm playing Corvo like I played Dishonored 1 originally, which is just my favorite way to play stealth games in general. If I fuck up, I have to live with it.
I sometimes try to do that, and I never have the willpower.
It's a lot easier to do in Dishonored than it is in like a tactical RPG. Like something like Fire Emblem, I've save scummed like a lot. Something like XCOM, I save scum a lot. Something like Dishonored, though, where it's like a fairly straightforward stealth game, like I tend to just I sneak around where I can, but where it is where I screw up, I kind of have to live with that, and I have to try and actually fight my way out. If I get killed, like during, so be it. I'll reload that save. But if I survive and fight my way through, and I have to use as much, as many abilities as I have at my disposal, that makes those encounters more interesting when I do actually screw up.
Yeah, I believe you, and I'm sure it is, and I'm sure I'd probably enjoy it more if I did it that way. But I always find that I just don't do it.
Yeah.
Even when I mean to.
I mean, I totally mean to sometimes when I'm playing, like, Hitman, but Hitman ultimately feels different, and so I end up reloading it. Like, I feel like in Hitman I'm way more compelled to go for the perfect assassination than I am in Dishonored, where you can get a little messy and it doesn't feel like it's the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more loose, I feel, than something like Hitman, which is very much like perfect score oriented, get the perfect kill or kills.
Yeah, it's different it's interesting how different games treat failure or just not getting perfect scores.
Yeah.
Like, we've got games like XCOM and potentially Fire Emblem, depending on the difficulty, where you can get, like, incremental permanent losses. So it's not like in Dishonored, if you die, you have to load. No, you can have one small part of what you have goes away forever. Like if you have a really good soldier that gets killed or something, or a character in Fire Emblem gets killed and doesn't come back. And that you can continue on from, whereas in Dishonored, when you mess something up and continue on, it's more likely, oh, you got seen, you had to go through a fight, and then they might know you're around there and you finish the mission, and it's sort of as though that didn't happen.
And I mentioned last week as well, like, going even beyond stealth and tactics, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, a loss in that doesn't feel like kind of much of anything. It treats failure as, like, a thing that is almost an inevitability, because there's only one winner and 99 losers.
Yeah, and
the way that you treat failure in that game is, like, ultimately it is lesser than, say, Rainbow Six, where if you die, you don't respawn until the end of that round, and you can make it, like, you as a single operator can make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be really, really tricky.
Yeah, I remember you talking about how if you die in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, you can just, like, leave and go find a new game and start again. You don't need to wait around watching everything, right? I've been thinking about it a bit with Shadow of War coming out, because of course in Shadow of Mordor they had that thing where, oh no, your character, if they die, they come back. So, like, you're expected to die a bunch, and the story just continues, and, like, you'll get mocked for having died and stuff. That's I'm kind of looking forward to that happening again. It's obviously not something that can be done in every game, because you need, like, a justification to bring the character back from the dead, and that doesn't kind of always exist.
Yeah.
But it's kind of similar, actually, to how Dark Souls handled today. When you die and you don't have to load, you're hollowed. And you continue with that death being part of what you've done, instead of loading back to before it happened and continuing as though it didn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there was another podcast this week that I listened to, even, that was talking about how, like, the mechanics of mortality in your game do make, like, a huge difference to how that game feels. It was either Spawn on Me or it was the Giant Bomb cast.
I find that's a really interesting concept to also apply to pen and paper RPGs, because one thing I don't like about the D&D settings is that death is cheap. There are a whole bunch of spells to bring characters back from the dead. And it's going to be interesting, because Starfinder, looking at the rules, there is, like, a high-tier single-use item, really expensive, that can bring people back from the dead. But I think that's kind of it. I might be wrong. I haven't been able to look at, like, the whole thing in depth, and I'm probably missing a bunch of content that I don't know about. But it sounds like death is going to be a bit more permanent in that game.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you how do you then handle death in a tabletop RPG, especially as a GM like you are? Like if one of your characters were to die, but that player still very much wanted to be part of that session, what would you then do?
Um, One thing is, a lot of my sessions don't have combat, so the chances for them to die, unless they're going to go and do something to intentionally make that happen, are generally pretty slim.
Right.
I think typically, um, I mean, obviously, different people have different thoughts on this and the way they run their games. Um, I want to make sure everyone's having fun, so if I can avoid forcing someone to drop out of a session, I'll avoid that because that won't be fun for them. If it's a huge story moment that would be meaningful to all of them and I don't think would just make them sad, then I might go for it. But normally, I think if a player is defeated in combat, I'll look for a non lethal way to continue that if I can. So there's still a consequence for failure, but the consequence isn't, oh, this character doesn't exist anymore, make a new one.
See, I was actually thinking oh yeah, I could have death still be meaningful to that player and to that character and to the characters that surround them, but then figure out a narrative justification for that player to then take control of a new character, whether
Yeah,
that is whether that's as an NPC that perhaps doesn't engage in combat but still accompanies them, or as a I can't say NPC, but as a secondary character who doesn't engage in combat but simply joins the team, or even just as a straight up other character that does join the team. I think that is an interesting way to handle that, but it's potentially time consuming to figure out how death then becomes meaningful in that setting again. And uh, it becomes difficult to reintegrate that player after they've died.
yeah. You also wouldn't want to fall into the trap of forcing a player to continue as a particular character when they might not want to be who they want to continue playing as.
I think you
And
could get around that by having them create that secondary character with
oh,
you.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then also that would slow down the game because you'd need to stop and make that character, and character
Yeah.
creation can be a time-consuming process
See,
as
I
well.
was thinking if you ended that session with that character has died, and we deal with the rest of the scenario, and we get some closure on that, but that character has died, and then maybe the love letter system that we mentioned last time allows some time to pass, and we have in between sessions the ability to sit down with that player and just be like, hey, so let's make a new character. How
Yeah,
make them central to this next part of the scenario. How do you want to handle that?
yeah, absolutely. If one of my players' characters died, I'd definitely want to talk to them between sessions about what to do with a new character because there's gonna be a new character. Unless it's the end of the arc and we're gonna stop the campaign, or there's like they're moving away and can't want to keep playing or something. Then it will be find a new character for them, find some story reason for them to join the group, and write something around
Yeah.
that. Absolutely. I haven't run into that scenario yet, so I can talk about how I might handle it, but I don't know if I actually would handle it that way if I get to it. You know.
Yeah. No, I do now.
But yeah, because one thing I decided pretty early on when I was building my D&D world is I don't want death to be cheapened in the way that I think it has in classic D&D. So one of the early rules I had was, okay, no resurrection spells. If a spell says it brings someone back from the dead, it doesn't anymore. Like,
Right.
I want that to be, like, if that happens, that is going to be something new that the world hasn't seen before.
Neat.
And I hope I don't run into that, because I don't really want any of my players' characters to die.
Yeah. No. Mark,
Yeah.
I have found something nice for you. But first, I think you have a question for me, don't you?
Yeah. This week, do we have anything in the inbox?
We do not have anything in the inbox this
Oh.
week. But If you would like to add something to the inbox, you can do so by emailing us at pausecastshow@gmail.com. Now, back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
I have something nice for you.
I'm excited. What is it?
So, my nice thing to give you this week is Monster Hunter World got a release date.
Oh, when is it?
It is January 26th,
That's really early.
2018. They said it was going to be early 2018.
Yeah, I thought early 2018 was like March.
Yeah, no, same, honestly. January 26th, 2018 is when Monster
sweet.
Hunter World will be launching on consoles. The PC version has not been announced yet, fair warning.
That's all right. Well, I suppose we've got listeners, but I'm planning on getting a PS4 to get it, because the people I'll be playing with will have it on that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's that. That's your nice thing to look forward to, and I have an article for you to look at your convenience.
That's cool. I didn't know about that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you have something to share with me by chance this week?
I do. I found a Twitter hashtag. One person in the lead up to the election to help de-stress people. They've got bird feeder or something outside their house, and they're taking a whole lot of nice photos of birds and putting them on this Twitter hashtag. And I thought you might like to have a look, because I know you like birds.
You've got me pegged to a T.
And now I just need to freaking find the link that I had. Oh no, where is it? I had it in my clipboard, but I don't anymore because I've got something else in there now, so it's gone. Here it is. Hashtag Ed's Bird Table.
So you can go check out hashtag Ed's Bird Table if you want to see some nice birds.
It's got a lot of cool birds.
The link to that will be in the show notes, as well as the link to the article about Monster Hunter World's upcoming launch date. So, I might talk about something kind of neat from Rainbow Six, just from my limited time playing it.
Okay.
In addition to all the cool breachable environments, which I've definitely had a lot of fun with, and there's definitely a lot of ways to approach. You can rappel up buildings and stuff, and then come through windows. So there is a lot of ways to go and enter into a scenario. But before each match, there's also a planning phase, where you get control of a tiny little drone that can run under some of the cover and barricades that the defending team can create.
So is there an attacking team and a defending team?
Yeah, there is an attacking team and a defending team.
Okay.
If you're on the defending team, you just go straight into setting up barricades, setting up traps, etc.
Right, so the map isn't going to be the same each time because the defending team decides where to put things.
Exactly, and
That's pretty cool.
The spawns of the objectives are all kind of randomized as well.
Okay.
So you can kind of reinforce around that. But the attackers get a planning phase where they get to control a little drone that can go under the barricades, and it's very hard to kind of see unless you're paying attention to it. And you can drive this little thing around and figure out where the objectives are, figure out where they're putting traps, and so you have the opportunity to actually form a plan proper before you try and enter the breach. That's interesting. It's a pretty cool mechanic. There's a whole ton of really cool mechanics in Rainbow Six. I've been really surprised by it.
Nice. Destructible environments can really change a game as well, eh? I've noticed playing more of XCOM 2. They're a really big part of it.
They're the game changer here. I can't think of a first-person shooter which is more destructible than this. And that makes it really, really unique because, like you said, destructible environments do make a huge, huge difference to how that game can play. I remember in Wolfenstein, which, by the way, has a plot justification for its destructible environments.
Is it that in real life things can get broken?
Well, concrete things can be destroyed.
Only concrete?
No, there's other stuff that can be destroyed, but you can destroy concrete things, and the reason you can destroy these concrete things so easily with your gun is the concrete formula that the Nazis have been using.
It's just bad. It's just bad.
It was sabotaged by Jewish engineers.
Oh, that's quite cool. That's a good justification.
The recipe for it was actually sabotaged to grow a specific type of mold, which then made the concrete decay very rapidly.
Okay, that is a
you are involved in that
stuff.
process at some point too.
Nice.
So yeah, plot justification for destructible environments. But that game was really cool for it as well because metal cover could be eaten through with laser weapons.
Oh.
And you could destroy environments in that way, and it made destroying them really tactical. And Rainbow Six kind of turns this up to the maximum, minus the lasers, where every wall and every surface can be either completely or partially destroyed. There is reinforcements that you can put in that can't be breached through conventional means, but there are a couple of operators who have they have very, very powerful breaching charges, which burn a hole using thermite and then detonate a standard breaching charge. So you can break through reinforcements like that, but things being destroyable or not in that game it's a fascinating choice, and it makes for gameplay which doesn't ever quite feel the same any two times.
That's really neat. I just remembered while we were talking about this, the best destructible terrain in Dying Light, where I realized I could punch the panels off walls.
Where?
In an we were playing, and we were in an office building, and I just switched to punching things. So I was punching out the glass because you want to destroy all of the windows in the office building before you leave.
Yeah, of course.
And I realized if you hit one of the columns or the wall, the concrete panels just break and fall off. It's expecting you to do this with sledgehammers and stuff, but if you punch them, it works too.
Good.
I don't know why I just mimed punching. No one can see me, and I nearly hit the mic. So I've got a thing I've been thinking about as well.
Oh.
Which is kind of stemmed from my D&D campaign, which is really becoming quite a regular thing to talk about. But
it really is. We spent quite a little bit earlier talking about the mechanics of death, and that actually just went into Dungeons and Dragons.
This thing that I've been thinking about is having good antagonists to drive a story. Because I think that's something that I need to do better on in my D&D campaign. But it's just gotten me to think as well about how different games handle it. And for example, in XCOM 2 with adding the new bosses, which now have a whole bunch of dialogue with the player, so you've got a relationship with the enemy that you didn't have before. I found that was that added quite a cool new dynamic to the game. And, looking forward to Shadow of War, where in Shadow of Mordor, the named enemies weren't nearly as interesting, at least to me, as the ones that just got generated, which is kind of a strange thing. And then there are games that do weird things like kill off the best antagonist halfway through.
Oh, I know exactly which game you are. You are subtweeting here.
Yeah.
I don't know how would you. What even would be the term that is not subtweeting for that?
Just talking about it behind its back. Maybe.
I guess.
I mean, I can say what it is. Let's see if you. 3. Yeah, it's Far Cry 3.
We all know it's Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
I still think that the second villain of Far Cry 3 was still equally menacing, though not as strongly performed. Perhaps
he was okay, but he had such a hard act to follow. That was the problem.
Yeah. No, the menace of the first villain of Far Cry 3 is kind of unbeatable.
Yeah, he was.
Shame about the rest of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shame about the rest of that game, but
And just the protagonist who was the worst.
Shame about the protagonist also. Yeah.
But anyway,
his friends were fine, but shame about the protagonist.
But yeah, so antagonists and the ways they can be done well, and I guess the ways they can be done badly. Have you got any games that you think have got a really particularly good antagonist for driving the story, or that fell flat on that?
Have you heard of Destiny 2?
I think I might have.
So, I'll talk about Destiny 1 first. Destiny 1 had this weird, vague antagonist that didn't really end up working ultimately. It was just like the darkness.
And there's a bunch of factions that were just sort of servants of the darkness, and that was kind of it, right?
Yeah, that was kind of it.
Okay.
And then as the DLCs got expanded, you actually got like enemies who had proper menace. You had a proper antagonist. So when the Taken King happened, you had the Taken King as the antagonist.
Yeah.
Oryx, this big bad. In Destiny 2, you have Gaul, who is a member of one of those factions from Destiny 1, one of the Cabal. Mm-hmm. And his motivation is he believes he was chosen by the Traveler, and he doesn't like very much that humanity appears to have been chosen, and that the Exo and the Awoken were chosen, but not him. And so he came to retake the light and say, this belongs to me. I should have been chosen. He ultimately works as an antagonist for that reason. Like, he has these very, very clear motivations for what he's doing.
And his motivations have such a direct relationship to the player as well.
Exactly, because the first thing he does, spoilers for the opening mission, if you've played the beta, you've already seen this, is your light is taken away. The thing that powered your character all through Destiny 1, and the thing that powers all of, like, just everybody in the Destiny universe up until that point, the light has then been cut off from you. Because he's trying to bend it to his will, essentially. He makes for a really cool antagonist. The clear motivations that he's got really, really help. And the final boss fight was really, really cool the first time I ran it. The second time we ran with a team that was very, very, very much overpowered. We melted that poor boss in about 30 seconds.
Oh.
But when I ran it the first time, I ran it with just myself and one other person, and it ended in a really, really cool way.
Nice.
The setting makes up for a lot of that game as well. How all of the missions in Destiny 2 are kind of staged, and how the story progresses its main acts. It's all tremendously, tremendously cool. I'm really excited for more people to be able to play Destiny 2 at the end of next month when it comes out on PC.
Right, yeah, of course.
But he's the first kind of example I can think of. Antagonists that fall flat, just like the vast majority of shooter antagonists. I can't think of...
The fact that it's hard to name one makes it hard, right?
The fact that I can't think of anyone except Kevin Spacey in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare for shooter villain.
Isn't that the name of an actor? Oh wait,
he's literally played by the actor Kevin Spacey.
But it's not Kevin Spacey played by Kevin Spacey, right?
No, okay. Jonathan Irons as played by Kevin Spacey.
Sorry, I thought. Never mind. Yeah.
And I guess the antagonists of the Dishonored series as well, also quite good. What are you thinking though?
I don't want to talk too much because it's a game that I want you to play. I think Chrono Trigger does a really good job of driving the story with the antagonist. I've realized while thinking about it as well, it's playing through it kind of feels like someone starts running a tabletop game, so you run a single session, and then they're like, hey, that was fun, let's run another one, and they do a continuation of it, and then they realize, I want to tell a completely different type of story, so they go, like, way out there and change a whole bunch of stuff, and it just continues on from it. As you play it, you'll see, and that, I think, did really well, whereas the, quote, sequel, unquote, which should have been standalone, Chrono Cross, I think is a fantastic game, but I found the antagonist fell flat, and spoilers, the final big bad just kind of comes out of nowhere, which is a trope that it really doesn't work well for me. And there's a few games that do it. Like, I haven't played it to the finish, but I know the original Half-Life had a final boss that, like, you didn't hear about until you were basically fighting it and stuff.
I'd also like to take this time to honorably mention BioShock for having the worst final boss of all time.
What was the final boss of BioShock? I got
Exactly.
halfway... I got halfway through it, and that's when the important stuff happens, and then I kind of fizzled.
Yeah, no, BioShock 1's antagonist is bad.
Oh, that's right. It's because it's the guy who, spoilers. Obviously, is... Well, do you not want me to say it?
Yeah, you may as well. It's a game from 2007. BioShock spoilers ahead!
It's the guy who was helping you all through the first half, right? You go and
Yeah,
kill
exactly.
him? Yeah. Because you kill the guy you think is the bad guy halfway through.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out, surprise, it was actually me, Fontaine, disguised as Atlas, and I've been controlling you with your mind.
I mean, it was a cool twist the way it looked back. It was like, oh shit, that all fits together.
No, yeah, no, it extremely is a cool twist.
I wish I didn't know about it before I'd played that part.
Oh, no!
I know. It was annoying. It was really hard to avoid, and I played it a bit late, though. But I kind of fizzled after that as well, because of it.
Okay.
But I wanted to get up to that point.
I thought of another really good antagonist. Mafia 3 has the antagonist of Sal Marcano. And as you kind of take down his organization, and as his motivations become clearer over the course of that story, oh my god, it makes me want to just... It really is driving me forward to finish this fool off. I'm real excited about it.
Nice. Another really good one, actually. I'm going for all the, like, this era games. Final Fantasy VI had a really good antagonist, because he's one of the few antagonists that is kind of scary, and it's because you don't know how far he'll go. Have you played Final Fantasy VI at all?
I have not, no.
How much do you mind spoilers?
I probably will not go play Final Fantasy VI.
Okay. So for the first third half, I'm not sure, the big bad is the Emperor of, the evil empire. And
it's Final Fantasy, there is an evil empire.
But his second in command you interact with more, Kefka, who is kind of a clown, like literally, but also does some really messed up things. Like, you first meet him at the very beginning of the game because he is put like a slave crown on the main character and is controlling her. Partway through, he poisons a village, and then you play through as a good person working for the Empire before Kefka kills that person. You really grow to hate this guy, but then about halfway through the game, when the evil Emperor is trying to use some powerful artifacts to take over the world, Kefka decides, no, screw it, I'm going to throw you off this floating island and use the artifacts to destroy the world instead. And you play the second half of the game in that destroyed world while he is like on a huge tower he's made, just being terrifying. And I get a similar feeling with Far Cry 3, honestly, just in the fact that kind of being around the antagonist is really unnerving because you don't know what they're going to do. Often it's like, yeah, they're evil, but they're predictable evil, so at least there's that. This is like, crap, what are they going to do next?
Yeah, an unpredictable evil is like... yeah. I really appreciate that.
It can be hard to... I imagine it can be easy to do poorly as well if you're just like, hey, they're kooky, they'll just kill anyone. Obviously,
Yeah,
there are
I
examples
mean,
of it
like,
that's done really well, but it's hard to get a good motivation, a good fit for it, I imagine, as well. But, then there's examples like the Joker from Batman, which is a really, really good antagonist.
specifically the Dark Knight Batman, I want to be clear, I think, is what you're referring to. Is that accurate?
Well, the comic one as well, but that one was a really, really good portrayal of it, yeah.
The Dark Knight Batman, or Dark Knight Joker was really good. The Arkham Knight Joker, well, oh no. Sorry, the Arkham series Joker is also quite good.
And that's based more closely, I think, of the comics one. It looks very similar to, like, obviously they can because it's CG and not an actual person. But, we're not talking Suicide Squad or whatever. I know that's the elephant in the room, right?
Jared Leto. Jared Leto can't act. Sorry, not sorry. He's not a good actor, y'all.
You got some opinions there. I'm not disagreeing. I don't know. I don't know if I would agree or disagree because I don't know the guy well. The guy's acting well enough.
He's not very good. Arkham Joker was good though. Like seriously. And voiced by Mark Hamill, which I think we talked about like in very early days of the show was when we like originally had that revelation. Just like, oh shit, Luke Skywalker is the fucking Joker.
Oh yeah, no, I've known that for ages.
Yeah, and I remember.
Oh, that's right. That wasn't me telling
on
you.
The show.
Yeah,
and I cannot believe that I did not know that until that point.
There was. I don't know if this was the context when I originally told you, but he did a great thing a while ago where he read out Trump's tweets in the Joker voice.
Yep, no, I do remember. Yeah. I think that was even part of that original episode.
Yeah. Speaking of antagonists, Jesus. Should we move on? Anyway.
A bad antagonist also, Bill English. Thank you. And Rise. Rise is also a bad antagonist who falls very, very flat from Dying Light. He tries to be menacing, but ultimately just the performance doesn't really come through, I think is his big problem.
I found the thing that fell flat most about that was the fact that he keeps goading you about making a choice, but the game doesn't give you any choices.
Yeah, if the game actually like gave you choices, that dialogue would be like a hell of a lot more meaningful.
Yeah, but without that, it's just pretty empty.
Actually, speaking of dialogue choices real quick as well, I hear Divinity Original Sin 2, which we talked about a while back.
It's out now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's out now, and I've been hearing a lot of good things about it.
I've been contemplating picking it up, but there's one thing that I've seen in a couple of places that is making me unsure about it. I've seen a couple of people comment along the lines of, if you don't know what you're doing in the early game, it's easy to screw yourself over a bit in the later game. So, you're playing for 12 hours or something and then realizing, maybe I should start again. I can totally see myself falling into that trap. And I don't like it when games will kind of let you mess up yourself in the late game by making poor decisions in the early game just because you don't understand the systems well enough or something. I don't know how big a problem that is. That it might be fine. But yeah, that's making me hesitant about it. But also, like, it looks cool. I think it looks pretty. And it's got that Game Master mode that I still want to try out.
Yeah, that was the context we originally talked about it in.
Yeah.
Which, like, sounds really cool. And I've discovered in the time since it's launched as well, it's actually got the first ever integration with Discord, as far as I understand.
Okay.
So on the PlayStation right now, there is a feature where when you're playing certain games that support said feature, like Destiny 2, for example, when you look at your friends list, it will show you, oh, hey, this person is playing Destiny 2, and they're on Earth running a story mission, and this person is on Nessus doing the raid.
Okay.
And Divinity has a similar feature for Discord, where if you open someone's profile while they're playing it, it will then show you this person is playing Divinity Original Sin, and they're at this location, and they have this many co-op slots available.
Right, because it's got drop-in multiplayer, right?
Yep. And it also has the ability to do invites through Discord, which then people can click on and it'll launch the game, which is super cool.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really interesting integration, especially with like how much Discord has grown as a platform. Because it's up at 25 million users right now. It's got some substantial growth.
How new is it again?
It was launched within the past couple of years.
Okay, because I know you only got me onto it a couple of months ago or something.
Yeah, exactly. But I had been using it for several months prior to that as well. Yeah, it's seen tremendous growth. It's a good platform. I think that's going to do it for us this week. Mark, what are you looking forward to playing this week?
I still feel like I need to finish XCOM 2 so I can feel satisfied in trying a new difficulty, because I don't want to start a new game with my current campaign unfinished.
Right,
and
yeah.
Now that I've finally been able to rescue that soldier who got captured, it took like 4 months in game before the mission rolled around and I could actually get it. I've finally rescued them. I kind of want to keep playing along. So each of the 3 chosen has got a knowledge bar that goes up over the course of the game. One of them is left alive, and it's finally reached the full threshold. And it looks like now they've gained the ability to launch an assault on my base. So I kind of want to just leave them and let them do that and see what it's like. Because honestly, I can wipe the floor with anything they throw at me now. The game has the difficulty ramp has gone way down in the end game. So I kind of want to see that. And once I've seen that, I think I'll just go objective, and finish it off. And then try a harder difficulty and see if it throws some harder puzzles at me. It'll probably be I think high difficulties I'll find really challenging in the early and mid game, and then hopefully it won't make if I can get to the end game, hopefully it won't ramp down quite as much as I feel like it has on the normal difficulty. But I'll probably also actually that's one thing I'm looking forward to, trying out Starfinder, that pen and paper.
Right, yeah.
That'll be really interesting. It's based off 3.5 D&D like Pathfinder was, but I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, it's basically a sci-fi setting with magic as well. So that'll be really interesting. I hope that's fun. We're doing a session 0, so it'll probably be mostly making characters. And I'll probably pay a bit more spaz, I think, just because it's a fun game. Like I said, I might turn it into a podcast game. And I want to collect me some spaceships.
Nice.
What about you?
I am looking forward to playing more Destiny 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see if I can get myself more raid ready than I was last week.
Are you trying to do that on your higher character or both characters, or?
Probably just my higher character.
Okay.
I played a lot on that lower level character last night, and it was a lot of fun though. So I don't know. I might do both in the end. And Dishonored 2 is going to be. I'm going to continue to do that.
Nice.
I've reached a level that I've heard quite a bit of talk about, which is very early in the game. I was quite surprised by this.
Which one is that?
It's called the Clockwork Mansion.
Yes. That was one of the ones I thought it might be. I haven't seen that one, but my brother's told me about it. That game has got some really cool stuff in it. I've watched my brother play a bunch of it. I haven't played any of it myself because I don't own it. But the world they've built is really cool, and they've shown it off in a nice. There's a lot of variation in parts of it they've shown off, which is really cool.
Steve Gaynor, who is the head of Fulbright, which made Gone Home and most recently Tacoma, was talking about Dishonored 2 on Twitter fairly recently, and pointed out that that game is mind-bogglingly beautiful and has just really, really gorgeous vistas and has environments which look like they should be concept art, but they're just fully in motion, not a big deal. Like, the Dishonored team at Arcane has really, really put in the work to make that game work from a technical perspective on such a massive level.
It's got such a distinct and consistent visual style as well that they've pulled off so well.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to spending more time with Dishonored.
Nice.
It's been really good as my very story heavy, lore heavy game, and I'm finding it weirdly relaxing. It's just a little bit irritating to play on a console, I will say, because I played Dishonored 1 on PC.
You prefer the mouse and keyboard?
Yep.
It's interesting because it doesn't have a lot of precision aiming, does it?
It's got some shooting and stuff like that, but the precision aiming for it is mostly like the blink, and it's for all the looting. There's so much stuff that you can loot in that game. And it's bad to pick up with the with a controller a lot of the time, unfortunately.
Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah. It's just like a lot of really, really fine adjustments, you know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, those are my games for this week.
Nice.
Thank you for tuning in to PauseCast. If you liked this episode, if you liked the show, please consider giving us a rating or review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, rather, I think is the official way to talk about it.
No one will know what you mean if you say iTunes.
On Apple Podcasts, just give us a rating and a review. It helps us out a lot. We are on Twitter as a show. We're at PauseCast Show. You can get notified when we go live with our Twitch streams, which happen every week, Thursday, 8 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time.
Oh, soon to be 8 p.m. New Zealand Daylight Time. I believe next week we're switching over on Sunday, I think.
Okay, good to know. So that would be an hour earlier for people. I think that puts the time difference on the west coast of the United States to 4 hours, and on the east coast to 7. It'll eventually go down to 6. I'm very excited about that. There's like a month in between those time changes,
and everything's just a little bit closer.
And then everything's just a little bit closer. It's very nice.
Daylight savings is so nasty. Why can't we just stick with one time zone all year round?
Here. Can I just be 4 hours from the West Coast? 3 hours from the West Coast at all times? Please? Yeah, you can tune into our Twitch streams at live.bird.school. You can also find the show on Patreon, and if you'd like to support the show by contributing to our Patreon, it'd be very much appreciated. You can find that at bit.ly/PauseCast. Just $1 a month gets you a thank you on the show every week, and you'll get a shout out every month, as well as early access to special content, bonus episodes, such as interviews, our spoiler casts, which we haven't done one in a while, and I might do a Destiny spoiler cast. I've got some folks who I think would be interested in doing that with me, so patrons will get early access to that sort of content. Again, that's bit.ly/PauseCast. Thank you to our patrons, Aladrain, Noah Holmes, PD, Ashy, Residoke, and Laminated Moth for their continued support of the show.
We really appreciate it.
As we mentioned in the middle of the show as well, you can send emails to the inbox at pausecastshow@gmail.com. When you send us questions, we will answer them on the show. And if you're in Twitch chat when we record these episodes live, you'll have the opportunity to ask us questions there as well. Mark, you are online. Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Honest Universe, and I blog as well, though not about video games, at honestuniverse.com. What about you?
You can find me online at bird.school or at hoisted.online. One maybe 2 quick things as well before we go. Actually, 3 quick things before we go. Oh
No,
my
just 5.
Just 5. Yeah, no, it's just 3 things before
10.
we go.
Okay.
First, thank you to Leon for the use of our theme song, Honey Milk Island. You can download Honey Milk Island for free and find Leon's music, including their most recent release called Bird World at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. Bird World's a really cool album because it's a fictional soundtrack for a fictional game, and so it's very much styled around that. It's a really, really cool album. I'd recommend giving it a listen. Second, if you are in New Zealand and you're listening to this now, we have an election going on if you don't already know. So do yourself a favor, get out there and vote.
If you're not registered tomorrow, Friday, I suppose you'd have to be listening to the podcast now. Friday's the last day you can vote without being registered. If you go to an early voting place, you don't need to be registered. They can register you there. I think either that or you can vote if you go to an early voting place on Friday. Otherwise, if you vote on Saturday, you have to be registered already.
Yep. And lastly, I was listening to Spawn on Me this week. I want to quickly give a shout out to Spawn on Me. They're an excellent podcast, and I would recommend them. But Tanya on there mentioned that not enough people were actually condemning PewDiePie in their discussions about him, and it was a lot of white folks like myself and Mark who were just who were saying, hey, I'm not racist, this guy's bad, but I'm not racist, I've never said that. And I feel like in my discussion about him last week, I did in fact fall into that. So let me make my stance very clear on this. Fuck PewDiePie. Campo Santo made the right move by DCMA, filing a Digital Millennium Copyright Act request against his Firewatch video and taking it down. Campo Santo is the developer of Firewatch, and so they've decided to directly cut access to his ability to make money from their content, and I support that approach. I think that is a good way to go, and I think more developers should do that. PewDiePie does not deserve to be in this space any longer for as much as he's fucked up all this shit. There has to be a point where we say no.
I agree. I think he's a bit of a representation of the things wrong with gaming culture we need to be rid of.
He really is. And yeah, I want to offer in no uncertain terms the strongest condemnation that I possibly can. I don't support that guy in any way. I don't think you should either. Fuck PewDiePie. That is going to do it for us this week. Sorry to end on a slightly sour note there, but I reckon that's important. I reckon that we have work to do as a gaming culture, and it starts by cutting out the toxic bullshit. All right, that is going to do it for us this week here on PauseCast. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye. You know what's really bugging me? I've been trying the whole podcast to answer the question you asked at the beginning, and I can't freaking settle on anything.
You got I settled on something very just off the cuff.
I know. I'm just bad at it.
Have you been overthinking it?
I don't know.
Probably.
It's not so much I can't decide between a bunch of opinions. My mind just keeps jumping around and I can't settle on anything.
Okay.